An executive tells Chris Gardner he'll need a shirt tomorrow because tomorrow's his first day. He thanks them, walks out, and the film walks with him. 6 months of hunger and homelessness collapse into his face. The camera follows him into the street, into strangers he moves through laughing and crying at once. It's the ending everyone remembers. But 20 people started that internship. One got the job, the other 19 received no final scene, no results, and no goodbye. By the end of this video, Chris's victory will still be real. But the ending will feel like a magic trick. Because while you watched one man win, the film made 19 losses disappear. Hold on to that. We're coming back to it. Rewind to the beginning, before the ending earns its power. The Dean Witter program accepts 20 candidates. 6 months, no salary, no reasonable promise of employment at the end of it. One paid position. That's a 5% success rate for a program the film frames as a straightforward test of character. Chris learns all of this before he agrees to anything. He isn't misled. He walks in with his eyes open because the alternative is worse. That doesn't make the terms fair. It makes them the only door available. The film gives the training a hard limit. Chris says that if he isn't hired, he cannot apply those 6 months to another brokerage. The film treats this structure like weather, something to survive on the way to the finish line. It isn't weather. 20 candidates enter under rules that guarantee 19 of them leave without the job, and the film provides no formal next step for them. Those rules exist before a single phone call is placed. No parachute, no consolation prize, no accounting anywhere in the film for what happens to a candidate who gives 6 months and still hears no. 20 in, 1 paid. So what do 20 unpaid people actually do for 6 months? They're not sitting passively in a classroom, waiting to be graded on a syllabus. They're working. The presentation says it outright. Calls become prospects. Prospects become customers. Customers become money in Dean Witter's pocket. Chris works his way through call sheets containing employees from major companies and signs 31 Pacific Bell accounts by himself. Real clients, real money, generated for a company that hasn't paid him a single dollar. In between, fetch coffee, buy donuts, move a supervisor's car. Revenue and accounts are part of how the candidates are graded. This is productive labor wearing the costume of an audition, and the company can benefit from all of it before it decides who gets paid. 6 months without a salary isn't an abstract number. It's Chris refusing to drink water because a bathroom break might cost him a call. It's not hanging up between calls because even those seconds are minutes he doesn't have. It's 6 working hours to produce what everyone else gets, 9 hours to produce, because every afternoon he has to stop and go get Christopher before daycare closes. It's racing between the office, the daycare, and whatever shelter still has a bed tonight. The unpaid 6 months isn't hypothetical. Chris is already selling bone density scanners just to get by, and they go one at a time until there's nothing left to sell. He loses the apartment. He and Christopher sleep wherever they can find space, shelters when there's room, and on one specific night, locked inside a subway station bathroom, Chris holding the door shut while his son sleeps against him. He hides all of it from Dean Witter. Every day he walks into that office clean, composed, competing for the same one position as everyone else in the room, and nobody in that building knows where he spent the night. The film shoots this with total sincerity, and it should. It's real. But watch what the film does with it emotionally. Every deprivation becomes one more brick in the case that Chris deserves to win. The homelessness becomes proof of character. The exhaustion becomes proof of will. The repaired scanner, fixed by hand at night when he should be sleeping, becomes proof of ingenuity. Ask the question the film never asks. What kind of opportunity requires a father to survive homelessness with his son just to prove he's earned a salary? What kind of opportunity treats a young son sleeping on a bathroom floor as background noise to a hiring decision? Dean Witter never knowingly put him on the street. The real accusation is different. The program receives his labor even after he becomes homeless. and never has to ask whether he can survive its terms. It doesn't need to ask. It just needs one winner at the end. Chris conceals the worst of it on purpose, every single day, for as long as he and Christopher are homeless. The program benefits from his silence as much as it benefits from his labor. It never has to reckon with what its unpaid terms are actually doing to him, because Chris cannot afford to let it see. Here's the mechanism, stated plainly. A competitive system doesn't need all 20 people to succeed to look fair. It needs exactly one undeniable winner. Chris is the perfect winner because nobody can argue with him. He's intelligent, he's disciplined. He held his young son's hand through a system that would have swallowed most people, and he still signed 31 accounts by himself. His victory has 0 asterisks. That's precisely what makes him useful to the story the film tells about the program itself. A flawed winner would raise questions about the program. A winner this clean closes the case before it opens. His exceptional achievement invites the audience to judge the entire structure by the one person who made it through. Instead of the 19 people, the structure was always going to reject. Chris Gardner is not proof that the opportunity was fair. He is proof that someone extraordinary managed to survive it. Those are different claims, and the movie wants you to feel like they're the same one. If an average intern had gotten the job, the ending doesn't land the same way. It works because Chris is exceptional, and exceptional outcomes make terrible evidence for how a system treats everybody else. One person clearing an impossible bar tells you about that person. It tells you nothing about the 19 who didn't clear it. And it definitely doesn't tell you the bar was set at a reasonable height. The film needs its winner to be extraordinary, so you'll stop asking about the unselected candidates who disappear. We don't know whether they were ordinary. An extraordinary winner short-circuits the question a merely average one would leave wide open. Was this ever going to work for someone without Chris's exact combination of talent, discipline, and refusal to break? You're already building the counterargument, so let's have it, at full strength. Chris chose to accept this internship. Nobody forced him. Nobody promised him the job, and the film is upfront about that from the beginning. He got real training and real access to a career most people never touch. Dean Witter was simply selecting whoever performed the strongest, which is what competitive hiring does. The film follows Chris because it's his story, based on his life, and his success shouldn't be diminished just because other people weren't chosen. Every part of that is true, and none of it changes the arithmetic. Chris choosing to accept the terms doesn't make the terms fair. Accepting a hard deal because the alternative is worse isn't the same thing as the deal being fair. People make that trade constantly, and the trade itself deserves scrutiny regardless of who agrees to it. You can admire a person's response to bad terms without agreeing that the terms were good design. The training doesn't erase 6 months without income either, especially once you remember the film's own detail. That training doesn't apply to another brokerage if he loses. It's a one-way bet with his family's stability as collateral. Competition explains why one specific person won. It doesn't automatically make the setup fair to the 19 who didn't. And Dean Witter selecting the strongest performer doesn't require unpaid labor from the other 19 to do it. A company can identify talent without running 6 months of free prospecting through 20 candidates performing work intended to generate revenue for Dean Witter while receiving no salary. The selection process and the unpaid tournament structure are 2 different design choices, bundled together and sold to the audience as one inevitable package. Dean Witter could run a paid tryout for 20 candidates and still hire only one. It runs an unpaid one instead, and that difference is the entire argument of this video. A paid tryout shares the financial burden. An unpaid one leaves the candidates financing their own survival while working to create value for the company. And yes, the film is allowed to follow Chris. It's his story. The real issue is what the film does with the other 19 once Chris wins. It erases them completely from the emotional resolution, and that erasure is exactly how a selection process gets repackaged as an inspirational lesson about hard work. Go back to the conference room. The executive standing to congratulate him. The instruction to wear a shirt tomorrow. Chris trying to hold his composure and failing just slightly, in exactly the right way. The handshake. The walk out into the crowded street. Into that unbroken shot of strangers, laughing and crying at once. Watch it again, and this time watch what isn't in the frame. Chris leaves the hiring room, and the film leaves with him. The program began with 20 candidates. The film gives the other 19 no final scene, no results, no reaction, and no goodbye. They disappear from the story at the exact moment Chris's victory becomes the only thing that matters. The ending is structured this way. The scene moves because Chris earned it. Its deception begins when his victory is asked to answer a question it was never equipped to answer. Whether the arrangement itself, 20 in, 1 out, no salary, training Chris says cannot be applied to another brokerage, was fair to begin with. One man's triumph can't audit a tournament. It can only make you forget there was one. The audience cries for the one person the system selected and never asks what the same system required from the 19 people it rejected. The tears are the alibi. Look at that hallway one more time. 20 candidates entered this program. The film shows you the one who won. It never shows you what losing looked like for the other 19. Because the moment their losses enter the frame, Chris's victory stops functioning as proof that the opportunity was fair. Chris earned the job. But the pursuit of happiness only works if 19 people lose. And not one of those losses is allowed into the frame when you applaud. If you think this argument goes too far, tell me exactly where the arithmetic changes. I want the disagreement. And if you want more familiar films pulled apart at the moment their happy endings stop adding up, subscribe to The Prism. I'll see you in the next one.